Hi, Ken Coscia here. Today I'm commemorating my 53rd anniversary working with the Silva Method. I feel blessed, I feel graced, and I've had so many questions from many of you. Thank you, how I got started, some of the lessons that I've learned, that I thought today would be a good day to actually do a video on my origin story and ideally share with you some of the defining moments, lessons I learned along the way that I'm sure you could benefit from too. At least I hope so. So, you may know me as the International Training Director for the Silva Method, the most experienced. They call me the best of the best, the senior most instructor, and the man who Jose Silva selected out of 1,000 global instructors to lead the charge, so to speak, way back in 1984 to do advanced trainings. There are only 4 of us in the world. Well, that's what you may know about me now if you're following my work. But it wasn't always like that. In fact, I love doing this work, and I can tell you many of my early years and even decades were very challenging and a lot of struggle and so many lessons that, again, I want to share with you here. So for me, it started way back in Brooklyn, New York. I was in Boston University, College of Engineering, struggling. And here's the takeaway, the harder I tried, the worse it got. Even though I had a high math background, high aptitude, I had the preparation, etc. And I maintained in high school with advanced placement courses, B pluses. Something went wrong there. The College of Engineering, very small, and yet I struggled. I was on academic probation and basically failing. I came into my second year, and it got even worse. By nature, I'm not a quitter. I'm pretty persistent, but I just couldn't take it. Can you relate? It was like a living hell. The harder I tried, I asked for help, the worse it got. So 2 weeks into that second year, I quit engineering, switched to business administration. Now, those who study business, I mean no disrespect, but for me, this was a much easier curriculum. And yet, my grade point average went up slightly. I went from D- with some F's to a D+. So the message is something was wrong with me, the way I was studying, my attitude. Looking back, one of the takeaways that I recognize is I was stressed out. I was worrying. I was trying too hard. This was it. College. I got to get a degree. And then I'm going to be on my own. I got to make... can you relate? You've been there? And we know through all the brain science that when we're in stress mode, survival mode, excessive worrying, it gets worse because we go into scarcity consciousness. The brain takes over and we lose access to higher thinking functions and our intuition. Well, I didn't know that back then. So I completed the second year disillusioned, came back to Brooklyn. My good friend who I grew up with told me, hey, tomorrow we're going to do something different. I said, what's that? We're going to go to a lecture on mind control. Back then, if you know our history, we started with the oldest brand, Silva Mind Control. And Mr. Jose Silva always meant self-control, controlling your own mind, thinking for yourself, not being a victim or victimized, not getting caught up in the lies and understanding, getting to the truth of things. That was always his mission in bringing this to people. Again, I didn't know that at the time, but I went along for the ride. Well, being what we were at that time in our lives, the day came, we did our thing, we partied, we had a blast, we picked up his girlfriend, more of the same, and we arrived 45 minutes late. Now I tell you this because physically I was present in the room, laughing, giggling, but mentally I don't know where I was. Feeling good, but out there somewhere. Bill Zarek was the instructor, and he's talking, going on and on, talking about human potential, tapping the power of the subconscious mind, creating a more fulfilling life, taking command of your life, and that you're psychic. We all have psychic, which back then was a big, hard to believe message. What do I know, right? But all of a sudden, somewhere midway through, I straightened out. I woke up and I was mesmerized. I was like, what? I want this. And I felt like I found what I'd always been looking for, but I had no clue what I found, let alone that I was even looking for anything. Again, can you relate? I was the last person to leave. One thing that serves me well throughout my life is I ask a lot of questions. I was the last person to leave. He sent me to the library, gave me some references, and I checked and double checked and checked. I was in the library, and everything he told me seemed to be true. So, whoa, there's something to this. I can manifest more of my genius ability, I thought. So now I'm excited. I'm going to go. I have no summer job. My parents didn't believe. I was raised by parents who lived through the Depression era. They were children of immigrants. They didn't believe in allowances. It was also a strict Roman Catholic background in our lineage. At the time, my cousin was a missionary in Brazil, a Franciscan, ordained in St. Pat's Cathedral. He did our family history, told us we had a pope in the family, a cardinal. So can you imagine sitting at the dinner table with my mom and dad, although they loved me and they were there for me, and I bring up about mind control, Silva mind control. My mom turned white as a ghost, took out her rosary beads and started praying for me. Have you noticed? People who know the least about anything are the most critical. Because people what? Here's another takeaway. Fear what they don't understand. So if there's something important to you, help people to understand it. Again, I didn't know that then. Now I do. And she just kind of tranced out praying for me. And I brought up the money. I needed the fee to take the course. My father, I thought, wasn't paying attention. He had the game on. My dad was a professional gambler. Game on TV, 2 games and 2 different radios. When I brought up the money, all of a sudden, I got the message. He was hearing, and he turned and looked at me. I'll always remember, it was almost traumatized. My dad used to be a longshoreman in his earlier years. He's a tough man. And he looked at me adamantly and intensely and said, "No effing way." I'm not going to say this. I was in shock. Now I really wanted it. Well, I got on the phone with the instructor. He happened to be dating my best friend's sister, so I had access to him, easy access. He said, "Oh, let's not let the money, you're like family, let's not let money get in the way." He needed help in his office. He was going to hire someone. I needed a summer job, and that's how I got started. We traded, and boy, did he earn his keep, because I went through the class that happened to be Memorial Day weekend. Back then, the holiday weekend finished on June 1, which is when I graduated, and I never looked back. And I couldn't even tell you, because when I went through, I wasn't the best student. I wasn't a shining student. I wasn't hearing voices. I wasn't having God speak to me. In fact, I would have been happy if my little pinky vibrated. But people around me were like, "Whoa, I feel blissed out. My headache's gone." But something inside said, "I'm onto something." It just felt right. Again, can you relate? When I look back, I'm kind of surprised. And I went to the class constantly. I helped out. I called graduates. I facilitated graduate meetings. I assisted the instructor. In fact, that summer, I met Jose Silva for the first time. A group of us from Brooklyn went to Manhattan, took an advanced training. Back then, I had long hair down to past my shoulders. I guess Jose took a liking to me because he began to mentor me. And shortly thereafter, I met Harry McKnight, another dear friend when he was alive, and mentor. And between Harry McKnight and Jose Silva, they certified me. They had confidence in me. Have you ever had anybody like that show up in your life? I feel such gratitude in my heart, because, really? I never in my wildest imagination thought I'd stand before hundreds and thousands of people sometimes speaking. I was so afraid of public speaking. But I went back to school that September. I stopped getting headaches. I was able to control and eliminate them without drugs. Back into school. I'm studying much less, going to all the classes, doing the work. And I got on the dean's list. I graduated cum laude. And by that fall, I was director of the graduate organization with the people, my mentors, between New York City, between New England, Rhode Island, etc. These people were the movers and the shakers. Boy, it's funny how life works. They taught me so much. I learned so much from them. It's called proximity. I hung out with them. I went to their classes. Again, I guess they saw something in me, because they gave me more and more opportunity, more and more chances to hone my skills and to practice and to present. And there I was, a full-time student, teaching in metropolitan Boston, the youngest instructor on the planet at the time. Now, by the way, I'm the senior most, I'm the oldest in experience. There's nobody in the organization, including the Silva family, who has consistently, I'm 53 years, never stopped, always been here. I love it because of the vision. Where they created a vision for all of us that we want to create, so to speak, he would say, a paradise, or at least leave this planet in better shape than when we were here. We're in this together. I love that. Transformation takes one person at a time. It begins that way, and you just spread it. Learn another message. So here I am teaching in there, learning. In Boston with MIT people. I met Dr. Almond Bose from MIT. He took Silva, founded Bose Corporation. As you may know, we were there teaching for a year and a half. My director was. I was there doing grad meetings, and a lot of his innovations and ideas and engineers. Wow, I was so cool. I've met so many people like that along the way, even champion Olympic athletes who've been through the class, who have had the privilege to coach and work through and guide. They have it. And by the way, if you're watching this and you don't know much about Silva, you've got all this ability. You bring everything you need. The only thing maybe missing is the how-to, the instruction manual. And that's what Mr. Silva spent 22 years, from 1944 to 66, studying everything from hypnosis, meditation, positive thinking, wisdom schools, biofeedback. Back then was the science, the brain science of the day. And put it all together in a simple format that is very structured, step by step, that allows us to bring out our best self, and we leave with the tools. Well, that's what happened for me, and I couldn't wait. My mom finally saw the change in me. She took the class, stopped getting asthma attacks, and she was a chronic asthmatic sufferer. My mom had debilitating arthritis. Most of my childhood memories are of her in the hospital, sick in bed. I have pictures of me kind of hugging her in bed with her, looking like death warmed over. Wow, what an inspiration. She wouldn't listen to Jose's tapes, back then we had cassettes. She had me make a cassette for her of what we call the long relax. Mind Valley calls it centering exercise, and it's not complete, and it's not the up-to-date version. I put this together. Every day she listened. She went back to work. She became like my best salesperson, so to speak. People in the family noticed this change. That's why I'm here. These kinds of things inspired me. And people in the classes were leaving without pain, learning how to control without drugs. People were reducing anxiety. People were improving their relationships, scaling up their business. All I could think was, whoa. And they were happy to see me as their instructor. What a way to make a living. And this went on, and I became, so a big lesson for me was stop trying so hard. And worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but gets you nowhere. And it makes things worse and puts you into survival mode. Big lesson. That's why in the Silva class we spend a lot of time helping you to manage your inner dialogue. It's not so much about positive thinking. It's about being more positive and recognizing the truth of the way things are and not making it worse, not wallowing in it, not catastrophizing it. So I used to be the CEO of Warriors Anonymous. Now I'm only a member because I don't think I'm far from perfect. But wow, what a change, what a shift. And slowly but surely, 1974, I moved from the Boston area. Back then, they hired me. They paid me a commission to teach, which frankly was the only way I could be a full-time student during the day, and in the evenings and on the weekends teach. And they paid me a percentage. All I had to do was show up. They did all the work, all the marketing, you name it. 74, I became an independent. Our business model is different. We have instructors all over the world, and we all work independently. It's not a franchise, but we're sort of the family, Silva family owns the business, and we have agreements, contracts with them. And so I had little old Hartford, Connecticut. Another lesson. I think I'm a good guy. I have a kind heart. I'm generous. I'm known that way. And I've met people who are kinder than me, more generous than me. People you trust with your children. But you know what I learned? It's not enough to be well-intended. You got to have skills. There are countless people who've graced us, became instructors, went through the certification, and never did anything. Couldn't get classes together or had very little success because they did not. They relied solely on the tools, of Silva, which is great, but You got to take action. It's not enough to just mentally rehearse, which is what we're teaching. It's not enough to just visualize. It's not enough just to be centered. That's most important, yes. But then we need to have skills. And that's something I learned. Also, the numbers don't lie. You got to look at the data. I mean, I could write a book on this. Because I've been with the best of the best. I've been all over the world in over 30 different countries, East and Western Europe, the South Pacific, Australia, Manila, the Philippines, you name it. I've been there. Excuse me. And you got to look at that. So what I noticed was, demographically speaking, I was not in this small community. There wasn't even 1 million people. It was like 250,000 at the time in the metro area. And it was not known, it's very conservative, not known for interest in personal development. You get what I'm saying? I'm not knocking. I love living in this community. We're still here. But that's another lesson that I learned. So I love doing this. I always wanted to do it. So I found myself waiting tables because I didn't want to go into debt and I wasn't succeeding in supporting myself. And at the time, my wife, Barbara. We've been together since 72, married since 1978, and thank God she was a paralegal. Another time she was managing a group of architects. So we had that double income that helped. But as we started planning our family and bought our first home in 1980, it proved to be, wow, really harder than ever. And I'm just being straight with you. A lot of lessons. I never gave up and I never stopped. But at that point, my wife is pregnant. We bought our first home. We don't come from a lot of money. All of our life savings was in the house. And my business, Silva business, went. And Barbara, we wanted to take care of the children, be home. So she stopped working for a period of time. That's how we believe. We're very traditional. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I spent more time struggling, moving money, different credit cards. You ever played that game? I nearly did myself in. I nearly had a breakdown. It was so, I never want to go back, and I never will, and I don't need to. So what I do, I applied for jobs. I didn't want to go into debt. I loaded trucks for UPS from 4 in the morning to 9. It's the holiday season. And then I came home, slept for an hour, and went to a restaurant, French silver service, which I had never done before. It's supposed to be just lunches, but it was getting closer to the holiday. We went into dinners. I was getting very little sleep for months. And then I continued. I stopped UPS serving until I built up some savings, until I was studying, learned some lessons, learned how to manage the business better, consulted with people who could guide me. And as my silver business improved, I stopped doing that. I didn't need to do it. That's my history, by the way. And I would say to you, as another takeaway, if there's something you believe in that you want, you got to have skills. You need lessons. You need maybe a mentor. You need some training. And in the meantime, you don't want to be in survival mode worrying about money, because if you do, which is going on with me, it's hard to come from your heart. You want to be there and do what you do because you want to do it. You love it. Do you hear what I'm saying? And that's always been my motto. So maybe I could have done better. Who knows? But it's what was available to me, what I knew. There was nobody in the organization that was really teaching anything like this skills. It was kind of hit or miss, frankly, amongst instructors. Sometimes I wonder, how in the world did I last all this time? People often say that, and good friends who used to be instructors comment like that. So fast forward, we're moving. 1984 is the year. I'm there going through my struggles with that. And Harry McKnight, my mentor, and Jose, we were expanding across the globe. They needed more of a team to do advanced presentations. We had a big meeting. There were 10 people on the list. I was one of them because I've always been an active producer, and they respected me. Let's just say I got close to the family. Well, I left that meeting knowing at very best I would be maybe the third person on the list. Have you ever done that to yourself, where you don't give yourself enough credit? You don't have the self-esteem? You don't recognize your value, your worth? That was me, baby. And that was just, and guess who got the call? First call. Harry McKnight was doing another project. They needed someone to replace him. There were only 4 people in the world doing this work. Jose was one of them. I got the call. And at first I said, why me? And they said, why not? I said, thank you. But what did I do? I freaked. I started worrying. Oh my God, how could I follow in the footsteps of my mentors? These guys, people thought they were the greatest thing. What did I do? I had recordings of all their presentations, and I watched them. Well, they were audio recordings. I listened and listened. I spent hundreds of hours going over their notes, and I began to read voraciously, putting together. I wanted to really do something different and make what we used to call the graduate seminar, this advanced course, practical. Because quite frankly, prior to that, it was wonderful and it was meaningful at the time and very theoretical, if you know what I mean, and philosophical. And being practical, which is what Jose taught me. And I put together that, and I started traveling the world and found myself before hundreds to as many as 1,100 people all over Western and Eastern Europe, eventually to Manila, to the Caribbean islands. Whoa, I got to see the world, and I got paid doing what I love. And more importantly, I learned so much about how people respond to this. This was not on Zoom. This was not, far away. This is up close in front. I'm there in the trenches, access to these people, listening to them, talking, and recognizing that everybody relates to the training differently and have different struggles. And I realized now, looking back, what a blessing, because it gave me so much information and knowledge that I was able to create content. You watch any of my videos on YouTube, that's where a lot of that comes from. Things that I learned. And although I'm not a PhD psychologist, I buried myself in anything to do with emotional intelligence and psychology so that I could also understand those aspects, because often that's what holds people back. So again, they gave me an opportunity to scale up my skills. And this went on. 1996, another defining moment. And here's a takeaway for you, is that it's important to embrace the idiosyncrasies of people. So when you work, you're part of an organization, especially if you don't own it. You could be an influencer like me. You could be a primary person like myself. Jose made me an ambassador. And to this day, I think of myself as that way. And part of my job was to travel the world and report back to the home office what was going on, how things were. But even with that, things change. Nothing stays the same. And in 1996, they changed the policy. And instead of having 4 people traveling the world doing these advanced presentations, they changed it where now it was available to just about every instructor. And I lost 90% of my revenue because they asked me to take on New York City. I said, no, thank you. I didn't want to live there. Take on Chicago. No, thank you. I like living where I am in Connecticut in a rural, I don't want to say slower environment, but more relaxed pace. Now, I'm back to like, oh God, what am I going to do? I've got 3 children. Excuse me. At the time, I had 2 children. Our third wasn't born yet. And I was like, whew. Again, can you relate? So some people get angry, pissed off, and they leave. Not me. I said, okay, how can I turn this around and make it work for me? And do it with love. And I did some forgiveness because I thought, frankly, at the time it was unfair, but what do I know? And a dear friend of mine who was building up a hypnosis company, frankly, it was dynamic meditation, specializing in weight loss and smoking cessation. And he used to be a Silva instructor. He said, hey, come work with me. It'll help you to monetize your passion. I know you're not going to leave Silva. This is where you belong. I believe I was born to do this work. He said, so come work with me, make your own schedule. And I did. And the best part was I had my dream come true. Every night I was before minimum of 150 to 300 people. They had a whole team helping to organize, market. I just had to serve the people and do the training, guide them through the meditations, teach them the skills. And again, I learned so much about presenting and facilitating large groups, let alone small groups. Again, it's fascinating. Change your point of view, you change your life. It's the takeaway here. Because when I look at it that way, I learned so much. It helped me be a better person. It helped me to be a better instructor. And I did that for about 10 years. And again, doing my love, learned some lessons, built it, and so on. Well, if you follow our history, being very transparent, that's my reputation. We've, like every other brand, highs and lows, ups and downs. We're known as the most copied, most imitated brand. We're the oldest, like the grandfather, I believe, in this industry. Most of the greats like Bob Proctor, Louise Hay, Shakti Gawain, the oncologist O. Carl Simonton, Vishen Lakhiani, T. Harv Eker. You get the idea? All these people have acknowledged how Silva has helped them to get. Wayne Dyer was another. Wow, I get what a blessing. And I'm one of the early original instructors, having a chance to meet these people. Wow. Anyway, things were really not moving along. It was a defining moment for me. I believe when we stay centered and balanced, and I don't mean to influence you in a way that maybe doesn't serve you, but I do believe we're not alone. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God or intelligence or the universe or the field, whatever you want to call it. And when we're centered and we stay in alignment with that, we'll be guided. And that is the story of my life, because I've never given up that. That is why I do this. I don't do this work for Jose Silva or the family or whoever. I do it for the vision to help humanity to evolve, to help us grow, to make this a better world by empowering people. Because I believe as each person becomes a little kinder, a little bit more generous, a little bit happy, a little bit more fulfilled, we're easier to live with, easier to work with, let's face it. And there's more and more people. And I can tell you, my friends, it may sound a little to you, I don't know, goofy area. It's not. When I started in 1971, things have changed dramatically. There is more openness to this work than ever before. There's also so much more brain science. I'm coached by brain scientists, brain science researchers on this. I wish Jose were alive, because so much of what was poo-pooed about him has been demonstrated to be fact, in terms of brain science and stuff with that. That's what keeps me going, is that vision. We're in this together. So 2006, the summer, I was the master of ceremonies. We used to have international conventions in Laredo, Texas, which is where the home office is. And things were not going so good. And I had a conversation with my wife thinking, I don't know, this is too much. Maybe it's time I do leave and do something different. And when you know it, something happened. The family got together for the first time in a long while in harmony, in a loving, harmonious way. And they said, this has got to stop. We got to protect our dad's legacy. And we had what a lot of us call, a renaissance. And at the time, Laura Silva Quesada, who I had the pleasure to meet and mentor somewhat, I was one of her several mentors, back when she got involved somewhere in the early to mid 80s, and Jose made her training director. And I've always, for well over 35 years, worked with instructors in the basic lecture series to the new format. That's been one of my specialties. But then she left in the year 2000 for reasons not important to go into here. But then in 2006, late 2006, they brought her back, asked her, gave her creative control as president, and we had our renaissance. And at the time, Mind Valley was struggling. Vishen Lakhiani, his former wife, Christina. And they used the Silva tools. They worked with us closely. They helped us learn marketing. They helped us scale up. They helped us put together some home studies, which helped people and brought even more positive visibility to us. Their business climbed to where they've become probably the largest, most successful of its sort in the field of personal development. And listen to his videos, Vishen Lakhiani. Even though he doesn't work with us anymore directly, he's doing his own thing, and he's not a part of our organization, with that, he still talks about it and how it helped him and served him, and even put together an introductory type, very condensed program of pre-recorded videos that you may be aware of. But anyway, back then, I remember he and I were roommates. We traveled to Greece together, and every year for about 6-7 years, we had meetings with our directors. Again, it was a defining moment. We learned more about marketing, how to take what we have, this wonderful program, and reach more people more effectively. That's another lesson. I used to fight it and say, marketing, blah, 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 blah. Well, the lesson is, without marketing, good luck. You need marketing. It's not about sales marketing. It's about visibility. It's about building relationships. It's about letting people know who you are. It's about making it clear to people who you are, what you have to offer, so that they can make an intelligent decision. That's very different than straight sales, like, would you buy this? I mean, you got to have an aspect of that. And at that point, we took the basic lecture series. So there's a lot of myths, not a lot, but some, still with some instructors, but most all in the world moved with us to the new format. Why anybody would go back or stay with the older format is beyond me, but again, I guess I could say, what do I know, even though I'm still here kicking with that. But in that renaissance, we took the basic lecture series, restructured a few things, moved some things around, still honoring the amount of time needed in the meditations, honoring Jose's research, honoring everything he taught us about the dynamic meditations, just moving some things as long as you position it properly. And we added his own advanced material to help people lead purpose-driven lives, to help people attune to source energy and be more consciously guided to live a purpose-driven life, to be on purpose in your life. And this is in 2006, 2007, we were sensing that, and now it's very common. It's become trending more. People want that. It was a move to help people, to bring Silva into the modern times. We also spend more time, especially myself, exercising intuition and playing with it, games to help people build their confidence and trust with their intuition, and so on. We're also, I could go on with this, but we basically took his advanced material, and the rest at this point is history. So this is 2007. As I'm recording this, here it is. It's June 1, 2024. I'll date it. And as I look back, I say, wow, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you've attended class with me, I so appreciate, because I'm here because of you. It would be freaking boring teaching the same material, especially day 1 and 2, over and over, if it wasn't for people like you who grace me and honor me with your presence. Because then we're customizing it. So our classes, my classes may be a little bit different, but you get our undivided attention. You don't pay $1,000 to sit up front, VIP type thing. Everybody has the instructor. So our classes might be as small as 10 people in the class to 20 to 50 to maybe 100 in the vast majority of Silva classes. Therefore, you're clearly visible, the instructor. And part of our work is guiding you and monitoring and evaluating how you're doing. If you've been in class with me, you know what I'm talking about. Because frequently I'll talk to my students and say, hey, gee, how'd that go for you? I noticed you seemed like you were struggling a bit. I'm coaching you step by step, and you're getting personalized attention. Because this program is about transformation. And for those of you PhDs out there, for those of you well-read people, God bless you. For those of you coaches and you've been around the block, I urge you to keep in mind, we're always learning. There's something more to learn. It's not what you know. It's not how much you know. This was a defining moment for me. But what you do with what you know. Everything else is intellectual, good stuff. Knowledge. They say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power when you implement it and use it, and when you transform your life and you are different. You are better. You establish new habit patterns. You fire and wire. You rewire your brain, so that's what transformation is about. Not accumulating knowledge. Oh yeah, I know this, I've been there, and so on. Again, I'm just telling like I see that. So I hear this all the time. People come in and say, I never realized how much is to this. Whoa, I thought I was going to be bored silly because I have such a rich background in this field. And when people are open, those are the kind of people I want to work with. We're open and we'll listen and we'll give it a shot. I can tell you, you'll love it, much like me. So again, thank you for being here and listening. Keep the faith. Whether you do Silva, whatever it is that you do, persistence is a key, and consistency, and you got to have skills and training. And it's okay to ask for help. Because remember, you are far, far more, far greater than you appear to be. In fact, I think you're even better.